All right, Toby says triangle BEA. BEA is a right triangle. That's interesting right there. Um, because BEA is a 90-degree angle. Is he correct? Justify your answer. Well, um, we don't know that BE and CE are congruent. If these were congruent, then we could state that that's a right angle. We don't know that those are congruent. However, we do know that because the central angle intercepts that arc, and that's 70 degrees. And we know then that this angle intercepts the same arc, so that is half the central angle at 35 degrees, right? So this angle we know is 180 minus 50 minus 35, or it looks to be 95 degrees. So clearly it is not a right angle if this is 95 degrees. Vertical angles therefore are congruent, and that's done. Okay, number 7 says let's look at the relationship between inscribed angles. Examine the inscribed polygon at the right and express x in terms of y and y in terms of x are the opposite angles in a quadrilateral inscribed in a circle supplementary, and explain. Um, that's an interesting thing. We know that um, if I were to draw um, this here, right there, and better yet, let's make that actually go through the center. So if we put the center here and do it this way, right, we now know that this angle from here to here and this angle here to here, right, this has to be 2x. This has to be 2y. So we know that those arcs are associated with it, or that's an entire circle. So we know that 2x plus 2y has to equal 360 degrees. So to continue, we could divide by 2, and we get x plus y equals 180, or subtract x, we get y equals 180 minus x, or if we subtracted y, we can get x equals 180 minus y. Okay, so let's go back. We've solved in terms of x and y. Are the opposite angles in any quadrilateral inscribed in a circle supplementary? Clearly they have to be. Doesn't supplementary mean that they add up to 180 degrees? And if x plus y then has to equal 180. So their opposite angles are clearly supplementary. That's kind of an interesting theorem. And then they continue and says, examine the diagram at the right. How many angles have the same measure? And what are the measures in terms of x? Well, let's go back to it. We know that measure of angle B has to equal the measure of angle E, which has to equal the measure of angle F, and we know all those are equal to X. We could also say the same thing about the measure of angle H is equal to the measure of angle G, which is equal to Y if we wanted to, because they intercept the same arcs. All right, we got a few more problems to work here. Attack them, one at a time and just see where it takes us. It says find the measure of the labeled angles. Well, it would be nice if they gave us some hints, but they don't. Notice that they gave us this arc is intercepted by this angle here, and that is 28 degrees. Doesn't X also then have to be 28 degrees? So therefore this has to be 28 degrees since X and X are the same. We know that this arc here is intercepted by this angle here, right, which is 74. Oh, wait a minute. This whole total here is 56, and that's a triangle right there. So don't we know that y equals 180 minus 56 minus 74, which had better equal y equals 50. And we already knew that x equals 28. So sometimes there's more information than we need, and sometimes the answers are a little more simple than they need to be or could actually be. All right, letter B presents a little bit of a challenge. Notice, please, that we've got arcs that are intercepted, and so we've got to analyze this. F intercepts this arc. Y intercepts the same arc, right? So doesn't that mean that this is also, this is also Y? And if I look at this triangle carefully, right, I've got 2 out of the 3 angles of a triangle, and I know that this angle here, F, is going to equal 180 minus 14 minus 34. Pick up a calculator, and we're going to get what? 132. If that's 132, right, then y is supplementary to 132. So therefore, isn't y equal to 180 minus 132 or 48 degrees? So right there, y is equal to 48 degrees, and we're done. All right. What do we got? We got 112. We know this angle here is supplementary to 112. What is that? 68 degrees, right? That means these are congruent because those are vertical. We know that this angle here is 40. Therefore, we know the central angle here is twice that. That's 80. So now we know we have 2 angles of this triangle here. Okay, so we can go back and say I now know that x is equal to 180 minus 68 minus 80, and if we do the arithmetic correctly, that's going to be 32 degrees. But if you can find 2 angles of a triangle, it makes it a little bit easier. All right. For D, we are looking for both x and y here. This could be interesting. The assumption might be that X is also 24, but because we don't have a diameter or anything to verify that, we're going to have to figure that out. Okay. I know that this angle right here going the other way is 240. I don't know if that helps us yet or not. I know that this angle right here is half the central angle, so that's 60. Oh, and this now is a quadrilateral. We know the angles of a quadrilateral add up to 360 degrees. So if we go 360 minus 24 minus 60 minus 240, that's going to equal x. And if all goes well, x equals 36. Y is an inscribed angle here. I should use a different color. And the central angle is 240, so doesn't that have to be half the central angle? So we now know y equals 120. All right, two more problems to go. Looking for x only. And notice that we have a central angle and an inscribed angle. And we got to take advantage of that. We know that that's 30. The minute I have two angles of a triangle, I should probably fill in the other angle. If I subtract 180 minus 30 minus 50, I'm going to get 100. So we know this is a 100-degree angle. That's an interesting one because that doesn't look like it's 100. That means this is 80 degrees, right? We know that this and this are radius. Those are all radii are congruent. Therefore, this angle and this angle have to be congruent, right? So you want to call those W. So 2W plus 60 equals 180. 2W equals 120, or W equals 60. That means these are 60-degree angles. 60-degree angles. I now have, if I look carefully enough, oh, I could have done this sooner, couldn't I? I've got two angles of a triangle, so x has to equal, x is equal to 180 minus 80 minus 60, which tells us that x is equal to 40 degrees. That was a tough one. And there might have been an easier way of doing that. I see a couple different ways of doing it, but that one's a little bit of a challenge, and we had to walk our way through that. All right, F. We are trying to find x, and that isn't too bad because notice we have an intercepted arc. Central angle is 60, so doesn't x have to equal 30 degrees? So some of these are easier than others, and we're done. Good luck.